What is a token and how does it affect how you or I interact with an AI? Hi, I'm Dave. Welcome to the Old Dad Studio. Today is May 18th, 2025. This is vlog 139 in my daily vlog series for 2025. Now, to answer the question of what is a token is a unit of measurement that an AI tool uses as we interact with it. So, something like a question mark might be considered a single token. The word please might be considered a single token. A very long or complex phrase or word could be broken down into several tokens, and that's how it's counted. Now, it's basically a unit of measurement that the AI uses as we are interacting with it. And the number of tokens that an AI can handle is kind of considered its active memory. And for us old IT guys, we might think of it as active memory, right? You toss things up into the active memory and it's there and it's available that we can use. And it's that same kind of concept with what's available in the tokens. Now, why do I bring this up? Why do I want to talk about tokens today? Well, OpenAI just released a new version of ChatGPT. It's version 4.1. Now, if you're in your ChatGPT or you're in your interface, you might not see it right there off the list. If you click on your list and you go down to more models, and then the window will open up and you should be able to see 4.1 and 4.1 mini there. Now, 4.1 is probably the one for folks like me who just interact with ChatGPT that we're going to be using. But the reason I bring up tokens and talk about tokens is because one of the major changes that was made with 4.1 was how much active tokens or active memory can ChatGPT have in a conversation. So the 4.0 model could handle around 128,000 tokens. So that's what it could have in its working memory in a single conversation. ChatGPT 4.1 can have a million. So it's a 10 times or almost a 10 times increase in the active tokens that ChatGPT can handle in a single conversational thread. Now, for me, I don't know how much this is going to affect my conversations with ChatGPT. I don't know if I've ever even hit the token limit in one of my conversations. But I'm not a developer, right? So I think what I've read so far online about this particular upgrade is it's really a developer's upgrade. So there's a lot of things in this release that pertain to developers, people who are writing code against ChatGPT and who are calling it in a program. But this particular item I thought was really interesting because it has continued to increase over time, and it's kind of interesting on how it works. Now, if you start a conversation with ChatGPT, or you're a developer and you're writing a program and you're accessing ChatGPT, as it's working through that conversation with you, it's using those tokens, or it's using its active memory. So it's storing things and it's storing things and it's storing things, and it can actively go back and look at that conversation. When it hits its token limit, when it hits the maximum that it can handle, what happens is some of the beginning, or some of the entry level items that you started with that conversation start to fall off. It can't remember or can't call back to those items in this conversation because it has a limit of 128,000 tokens. So as your conversation increases, the bar is moved for what it can remember down. So once you've hit the limit, it just keeps moving down, and everything up here is forgotten by ChatGPT, or I shouldn't say it's forgotten. It's not readily available for ChatGPT to go back and access in that conversation. So the more tokens you have, the larger conversation that you can have with ChatGPT. Now, I say this is probably something that developers are going to use more than people who are just having casual conversations like I do with ChatGPT, or have it help me with certain tasks. And again, I don't know that I've ever hit the limit of 128,000 tokens in a conversation with ChatGPT 4.0. I may have come close a couple of times. I went back and looked at some of my conversations. I've got a couple around weight loss where we were talking about things like developing a program around weight loss that I could say, hey, let's folks that watch my channel, if you want to follow along and do something with me on some weight loss, we could support each other and try to lose some weight. Now, I haven't launched anything like that yet, but the process of working through that with ChatGPT, some of those conversations that we've had around that and some of the planning and some of the things that we have worked out, those conversations are probably some of the longest that I have had and most intense as far as things like developing PDFs and all kinds of other information within those conversations. So I may have come close on some of those. I don't know even how to measure if my chats have reached that limitation or not. So I might do a little bit of research on that to see. Now, one of the other things that has changed with ChatGPT 4.1 are some of the prompts that are available or the way that you should use prompts. It looks like they're evolving that process as well. And again, I think this is geared more towards developers than just general folks like myself who are having conversations with ChatGPT. And I use the voice mode a lot more than I use the prompt mode, and I don't structure my prompts all that programmatically when I do use prompts, although I might use the guide. Now, I'll put a link to the new guide down below in the description if you haven't seen it and you're curious about it. I think one of the interesting pieces, or a couple of interesting pieces that I saw in there, because ChatGPT 4.1 is not a reasoning model, you can give it reasoning commands and tell it to think, which I, I kind of thought all AIs thought, but I know I have more to learn about AIs and exactly which AIs are thinking AIs and which ones are general AIs. And there's so much out there to learn on all of this. But anyway, you can tell it to think. And a couple of the other noteworthy things that I saw in there is you can give it negative commands now. So don't do this rather than do this. So there's some negative commands available for folks. And also there's some structure around providing I don't know as an answer versus trying to make something up or fill in the gaps and have a hallucination happen with the AI model. A couple of the things that I did read about the 4.1 model on the test results that we're seeing or that OpenAI is seeing with this. One of the big tests that companies do around their AIs is called a needle in a haystack test. And what that is they'll try to load up all of the tokens that are available, and within that bunch of information that they're loading into that token, they'll put one or two pieces of information in there that are unique. And so, as an example, let's say we're going to load up all of the tokens about making a recipe around bread. And everything we need to know about the bread recipe is in here, and about the bread and about the baking pans and everything. But we've filled up all the tokens just on that topic around making bread. In the middle of that, we slip in a line about quantum computing. It doesn't fit in all of that, but it's something that's unique, that's inside of all of that information that we've filled up all of the tokens with. And then we ask ChatGPT a question about that one line of code or that one piece of information about the quantum computing. And while it's managing all of these tokens and all this information about bread, can it still find the answer to that question about quantum computing? And if the answer is yes, then they've scored 100% on this needle in a haystack test. On the flip side of that, though, there's a comprehension test. And where ChatGPT 4.1 did really well on the whole needle in a haystack filling everything up test, on the comprehension test, it didn't do as well as some of its competitors like Gemini 2.5. It's a similar test where you're filling that up, but you're not just looking for that needle in the haystack. With that one, what I would say in the test that I described, it's like one shining beacon of light in there, right? It doesn't fit. So it probably can find it because it's sticking out like a sore thumb in this huge bread recipe. Well, when you use that same concept, but then you test for comprehension, that's another test that's very similar to the needle in a haystack test. And ChatGPT 4.1 did well. I think the score was like 62% comprehension, but it was beat out by some of the competitors like Grok and Gemini 2.5, which did much better. So where 4.1 has a lot of improvements and a lot of new things for developers, depending on the situation that you're using it for, if you happen to be a developer and are watching this, then you might want to consider some of the other models as well. So for us casual everyday users like myself, I don't know that we're going to see that big of a difference with the 4.1 versus the 4.0, but I'd be willing to see if we do. So if you are a casual user like myself and you are using 4.1 and you see, hey, this thing is really vastly improved, please let me know. Leave a comment down below. I would love to understand what you're seeing, what I'm going to see, how these things are evolving all together, and we can all help our collective learning as we go along. There's so much to learn around all of this AI. It's exciting, it's fun, but it can be daunting at times with all the changes and everything that are happening so fast. All right, I think that's going to do it for this vlog for today. If you're new here and found this conversation interesting, please subscribe. If you have something to say, go ahead and leave a comment down below. Let's have a conversation around it. If you like today's vlog, please leave me a thumbs up. That always helps. Otherwise, I think we're done for today, but don't worry. We'll have another one, and I will see you tomorrow.